And you can even like text screen time, like literally text it as an agent through AngelQ. It's a part of it called ParentQ. So we get something for the parent, something for the kid, and the parent can send a message to Angel and say, we got dinner in 10 minutes. Can you get them off the device?
Hi everyone, this is Alastair, and thanks for tuning in to the AI Cognitive Shift. This podcast is a collaboration between the Venture Variety Show and AInews.com, and this show explores how AI impacts society, culture, and the future of work. When we launched this podcast, I wanted to report on how AI affects various groups, and one group that is especially impacted is children. Today's guest is Tim Estes. Tim is the founder of AngelQ, a company that uses AI to make the internet safer for kids. Tim's background is in AI and security, and he has a unique perspective on the issue of child protection in the AI era. So let's dive in and meet Tim. Thanks for joining the show. Tell us more about what you do and what AngelQ is.
Yeah, so I've always been an entrepreneur. All I've ever done is run AI companies. I was running an AI company back before it was cool, like in the previous AI winter of 2000. And I spent about 20 years using natural language processing and understanding large-scale unstructured data analytics, unsupervised learning against textual data at scale in the thousands. And that journey got me into some really cool missions, really important ones, like finding terrorism, terrorists before they attacked us again, post 9/11. So that drove a lot of the first decade of the company, and also because frankly it was so early and so advanced in AI. The only parties that were really funding that back then were the government, and then on the other side there was a little academic work, and then the big companies for advertising were funding it. So funding AI in general. And I didn't have a play for it in advertising. I was trying to find bad guys. And so government was a natural sponsor. When we built it up to a certain scale and proof in the government area, we actually ended up taking it to Wall Street and found a bunch of large global banks that essentially wanted to avoid the kind of conduct that led to the financial crisis. So we actually delivered in my last company, it was called Digital Reasoning, I think the first enterprise scale analysis of email and chat through NLP. And so I love being out there, being first, and then being able to have a chance to have an impact in some of those problems. Now, during that tenure also, we did work with HCA and basically helping large systems find more cancer patients by reading doctor's notes. So once again, unstructured data, different kind of data. Then finally, we had a system that we built in partnership with a wonderful nonprofit called Thorn. That's probably the leading group in protecting children from sexual abuse online. It was founded by Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore, run by an amazing woman named Julie Corju. And we had a chance to partner with them very early and basically build with them the system called Spotlight that became a vehicle to find children that were being trafficked for sex online, and at massive industrial scale. It was mostly Backpage. At one point we had indexed, including obviously duplicates, 100 million escort ads in the US.
100 million?
100 million. Yeah, I know. So, lots of duplicates, but we're still talking about non-duplicated in the hundreds of thousands, if not more. And so it was just staggering, the scale of this. And it stuck with me. So when I sold my company and had to choose what to do next, I naturally went back, and I also became a dad at that point. I've got a 9-year-old and 6-year-old. Between those two factors, I was looking into what were my kids going to grow up with when it came to technology. And it's not like I hadn't seen some of this playing out while I was at my last company. But what I realized is we're on a path to essentially, especially post-COVID, we're on a path to fundamentally change the way that kids interact with other human beings and left them open to immense negative influences. And these influences, generally controlled by algorithms in search, particularly in social networks, those influences were deeply hurting their mental health and driving them into all kinds of dangerous and harmful behaviors, like suicide, like depression, eating disorders. And then one case, I guess I'll end with this. One case came to my attention. A girl named Nylah Anderson, 10-year-old female in Philadelphia, spoke 3 languages, very, smart girl, went to charter school, and she was left kind of unmonitored on TikTok. And this place where you went for silly dance videos. And let's put this in context. TikTok really got into the US because it bought Musical.ly. Musical.ly, and I think it was 2019, was massively fined by the FTC because they had all these minors using it, and they knew it, and they didn't even put up basic age verification. So TikTok inherited that and sort of continued that culture of negligence. And the epitome of it was their algorithm, which is what makes it so powerful, this sort of suggestion recommendation algorithm with short-term video or short-run video. The For You kind of feature in TikTok serves up the blackout challenge to this sweet little girl. And you're kind of wondering, and she never looked for it. For what reason? Not because it's in that person's benefit, it's for your benefit. It's for essentially you driving up your revenues. So that obviously I feel very passionate about this. I said, you know what?
Yeah.
I think we can put an AI between every child on the internet. And I want to figure out how to do that, starting with younger kids. And the trend I was seeing, and this might be a good segue, was I believe that essentially search as we knew it was going to go away. That AI was going to replace search as we knew it. This is in 22, kind of before Perplexity caught fire, if you will. And then, OpenAI went into search and the rest of it. This was pre-ChatGPT. And it occurred to me that we were going to have an AI intermediated internet for everything.
Clearly, this comes from a deep-rooted source of passion for you and interest. It's interesting that on this show, I normally talk with people about, the future of work, about jobs. And here's a case where we're talking about, as you say, the vulnerability of children. So just to be clear, this is the company you founded, AngelQ. You provide how would you describe it, a kind of a safe place for them to search online?
Yeah, if I was just really, I know you've got an audience that's pretty sophisticated, but if I was just going to save them time and summarize like what we're doing, like we're replacing Safari, Chrome, YouTube with an AI that manifests as an app. So it has an interface. So we're basically replacing the browser with an intermediated AI engine. And so you literally download the app, you set it up, you can delete those other things off if you want to be really safe, or you can use its capacity to control other apps because it actually hooks into screen time. And you can even like text screen time, literally text it as an agent through AngelQ. It's a part of it called ParentQ. So we get something for the parent, something for the kid, and the parent can send a message to Angel and say, we got dinner in 10 minutes. Can you get them off the device? And Angel will pop up on the device and give them a clock and use best practices to count them down and offboard them. And so even the areas that we don't support within AngelQ, like gaming, can be managed by AngelQ by doing time limits. So we tried to build a really simple but very powerful solution, with the real goal being when you have an hour as a busy parent that your kid wants to use some technology, wants to watch something, or wants to find something out, and you want the time back, and you don't have like on-demand au pair babysitting that's always there, even if you had the means, right, economically, you may not have the actual means, which is someone available. Technology is right now uses a babysitter, and it's doing a very dangerous job of babysitting because it only takes a few minutes for the kid to go down one rabbit hole or another from YouTube or something else and end up in a place that you never wanted them to be. So we are replacing that. We're replacing that entire thing so that kids can absolutely be able to autonomously use technology without active supervision for a broad set of things. And you as a parent can fully know that Angel is operating in a way as if you were there with them, deciding, oh, they should see this and shouldn't, or I should be explained this way. Or they're doing research and it's going out and making sure that they pull this together without having to go search the open internet. And so it's really the subset of the internet being translated to kid on the fly that they should have if they're like under 12. And then we're going to keep expanding that. As the trick is to make it super safe and trusted for a subset, and then use more and more advanced AI capabilities to cover more and more content safely. And that's our journey. So it won't be too long before we're actually covering pretty much the whole internet with this thing, but we're covering, a lot of it right now that's relevant to the kids.
I want to talk about kid safety online, but it speaks to open tech and I think public trust of what it is you're doing, and kind of it's interesting to see how things are playing out.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing that's impressed me in the last, say, 6 months is the deep research capabilities that came at OpenAI and then with Gemini. Like those things they're just utterly astounding, like how good they are. I mean, they're like that ability to create the research agent with a language model and then is to connect it to live knowledge across the web. To me, that is like the most significant breakthrough. That's as bigger a breakthrough than ChatGPT. ChatGPT was a really cool demo that worked for a lot of things and had all this knowledge being teased out. But the ability to use that as an agent to curate the web on the fly for any topic, that to me is the total game changer. And if an AI is consuming content and summarizing and making the attention use of human beings far more economical, which is what we want and what we should
Right.
have, then where's the place for advertising in that? That happened historically with Google and like what's happening now, because Gemini basically is summarizing this information and answering it, and people don't bother to click a link. And we're seeing the same thing with AngelQ. You see, we realize that there's tons of questions that don't require a kid to go to a website. The knowledge could get extracted by the AI and then actually come forward and be more efficient and actually safer that way. And so that's what chat does with an AngelQ. If you really want to get deeper, you use the research part of AngelQ and you get like a written summary that's fairly, I would say advanced. It's going to be appropriate to the age of the kid in terms of complexity, but the amount of material consumed and then the summarization of it is a lot more than just a simple chat answer. And so that's what we normally, that's the kind of outcome that we normally when we browse and read many places and try to summarize it. It's an outcome that like Perplexity basically automates for people now. And that's what deep research and OpenAI's deep research, so Gemini and OpenAI's deep research automates as well with amazing power. So yeah, a lot of what AngelQ is doing is we have chosen to focus on very specific areas where we have IP, which is really around how do you assemble these different pieces that are out there essentially as the tools for an agent that serves the kid's interest, that's always learning more about them and tries to understand them. But the other thing too is there's been a lot of like really big issues on companion bots. You've probably seen this in the press. It's been all over the place the last couple of weeks, where there are a variety of businesses. Character AI kind of is the leading one. But there are a variety of businesses now, Meta's copying this aggressively, that are trying to create essentially relational substitutes with AI chatbots. And it turns out that is unbelievably toxic to kids. Like the kind of the activities, the research that's coming out, the way in which, I mean, for those parents that are watching, I mean, we're giving role-playing chatbots to kids that still wake up on Easter morning and go and look for eggs because the Easter bunny came.
Very
And we expect
vulnerable.
them to know the difference between reality and that, right? So it's kind of, I mean, I don't want to blame parents, but it's a little on us. But that means that we should say, you know what? Any company that enabled that and tries to drive kids into those platforms should be deeply suspect. And so I say this knowing full well with AngelQ, like we have, the ability to, these personas that answer questions. But we've had to be super careful in how we built these personas. They're constantly volunteering that they're not, real, that they're an AI, that they're there as an assistant and help. There's all these questions they won't answer. There's pauses. It doesn't try to keep an engagement going indefinitely. There's a lot of little things we do. We'll put more and more in, and we're working closely with many like child safety experts around this issue to ensure it. I think you can give AI to kids safely, but I think if you try to mix giving it to them with a model to capture their attention, it goes toxic super fast.
How should we be thinking about digital safety now that AI is replacing search and social media?
What now can happen with search is I can have an AI agent that knows me and hopefully aligned to like my interests and desires, go out and navigate the content of the ad-based economy and never actually give me an ad. Just get, it's like, what is it? Joe Friday, just the facts, man, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have a bunch of AI going out to get just the facts and then bring it back for us based on what it knows about us. And that's going to get really, really good. I mean, like I said, deep research is the proof that this can be amazingly good. And it's just the beginning. And when that happens, search as we know it's gone. And I mean, it's just gone. There's no aggregation point. It's like it starts looking more like a stock exchange, like a marketplace, where you have buying and selling agents of knowledge, and those collaborate to get to an optimal price point. Price point being getting you what you want and need. So long story short, I see search having at most a 5-year life cycle ahead of it before it's fundamentally gone as we know it. And it's going to happen really fast. And then what goes after that and should go after it is social. Because the same things are true where you don't need a middleman connecting people anymore. So another thing that's I think too often overlooked is ChatGPT became the most popular app in history faster than any app in history. 100 million users in a few months. And like every other technology adoption has taken like years to get to that level of usage. and it didn't have any advertising. It was just basically a demo that went wild, right? If you talk to like, the OpenAI people, that's what they described it. Oh, this was supposed to be just a demo. And now it's like, wow, the dog that caught the car, right? And so the reason that's interesting though, is it's only one part of it. The technology was really amazing, and it is amazing. But what it showed is the connectivity of people and devices was so low friction when people wanted to do something, it could spread at a velocity we'd never seen before. That should scare Google to death and Meta to death, because when these use cases are figured out, they'll go from potentially 5% market share to like 50 in like 18 months. Those companies will see just a crash of likes we've never seen before. I would not want to be long them unless they've got a strategy to actually mitigate that. But that's also why I think they're in a total war right now, spending billions, racing to outdo each other, because unless they can come up with that magical thing, and like Gemini's deep research is a magical thing. And so maybe they're going to figure this out. But Google's going to have to figure out how to be a software company for the masses and not an advertising company. So on the one hand, if the current incumbents have the resources win, we're probably on a path to dystopian future beyond today. But if new players win, or some of those companies totally pivot their models to be aligned with the user, then I think we could have a much better future that actually has us spending less time on screens because the AI is doing the work for us most of the time. And then when we have our attention given, it is revalued.
Yeah, using an AI agent to limit or do away with ads in search and social sounds great. And is that what AngelQ does for the users, for the children? Is we'll take blocking the ads, taking away the ads when they're
Yeah.
searching, basically.
So I think that so for the 5 to 12-year-olds that are its audience, it essentially replaces the need for search with a far better experience. And so, and the only criticism would be there may be sources and pieces of data and whatnot that the older kids, like the top end of that spectrum, 10 to 12, still want to get to that we aren't serving up yet. But we'll close that gap, first of all. Like this is a 1.0, and it's pretty far along in terms of breadth for a 1.0. Second, we don't disallow things to live alongside of us. We just give the power back to the parent to decide what those things do. So for replacing search, yes. Now social, that is not one we have an answer for yet. We have some ideas, but we also have some potential partners that are working that problem. And so, when we looked at it, I won't get into the specific numbers, but when we were building AngelQ, we realized there should have been multiple unicorns like solving a problem like this, and we had none. And the reason is probably less than 10% of the addressable market was actually served right now. So it's a total blue ocean when you do the analysis. Like this, equipping families with this, if you believe there's a huge need, and you might have doubted it 2 or 3 years ago, but no one doubts it today, there's a huge need. They just don't know what the solution looks like. And I think what happens here is you do get multiple unicorns out of this. And some of the parts of it, like search, might be a big enough problem that we're staying there for a while before we go to social. Or maybe we find an elegant way to go over into doing social stuff with a partner or directly. And then we're creating a safe way for kids to build relationships that actually just mirror their real relationships in the real world, instead of trying to artificially create relationships that aren't relationships. As one of my friends, 15 years ago, said, on Facebook, you don't have friends, you collect them. And so it was a scoreboard. Like they turned relationships into a scoreboard, and that's all you need to know. They turn human beings into numbers over and over again, and we expect them to value human beings. They're just numbers to them.
And I wasn't expecting the conversation to go in this direction, but I mean, why is this just, this is a great use of AI technology, first of all, to use this to safeguard children, but why is this just for kids? Why can't adults use this? Why can't I reclaim my time, my pause when reading?
Yeah, I think you can. I think that there is room definitely for multiple players to come in and serve these needs at different age groups. With AngelQ, like we could have said, oh, well, we're this AI that does all this good, beneficial stuff for everybody, children, wrestling. We would be too unfocused as a startup to do it really well. So that's my hope. I mean, we can't be the solution for everything. We can be something for kids now, and can be something for others later. But I do believe that the industry as a whole needs to embrace this vision, of aligning AI with their users and finding ways to make money where that is true, instead of finding ways, to just not get caught, not get penalized, not get sued by abusing their users.
Any other thoughts?
What I would say is this: is those that are
Yeah.
on here that are in your audience that are deeply technical. A lot of you probably asked the question, like, how do I let my kids really understand AI? How do I put it to use? How do I want them to be prepared, and then not be vulnerable, not be in harm's way? We built AngelQ for you. We built it with some of the best AI tech, and so I encourage people to pull it down, try it. There's a free trial area, and come back and give us feedback. We want this to be the safest, but also the best. This isn't about having something that's just safe and cute and a weak version of real AI. It is meant to be elite and at the same time safe, because I do not think those things are in conflict. It just means you have to do more craftsmanship to get it right.
Well, we'll end there. That sounds great, and hopefully we're marching there in the future, Tim. Thank you very much for your thoughts, and thanks for explaining AngelQ.
Yeah, thank you, Alastair.
That's it for this episode of the AI Cognitive Shift. Thanks again for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe, and head on over to the Venture Variety Show and AInews.com for more info. And if you got feedback or guest suggestions, please be sure to drop in a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And if this show resonated, please be sure to share it. Again, appreciate you tuning in. That's it for now. Until next time.